זה היה מטונף.
עכשיו עושים יוטיוב, נראה.
את זה אני רוצה לשלוח לבית כנסת. יום ירושלים. מה אתה שתקליט לי את זה? כן, כן, זהו.
יפה, אני חושב שיוטיוב עבד מיד, אז כן, we are now live. אבא, we're live on YouTube. אבא, we're live on YouTube. Okay, we are live on YouTube. Just one second.
Just tell the people to
YouTube עבד מיד. Okay, you have to mute, if you don't want people to hear you, you must mute yourself. Okay, you can mute yourself in the meantime, if you want. I'm going to send this out to the group. Okay. Right, one second here. We are live on YouTube. Unfortunately, Facebook wasn't working. Please join us here. Okay, so I'm sending this out to everyone. Right, I'm just posting this now. One second. Forward. Nope. Forward. Share to. Okay. אוקיי. אבל חכה עוד שנייה, אנחנו שלחתי מסג'ים, נחכה עוד כמה דקות. Posts from here. Okay, wonderful. Okay.
אתה רואה אם אנשים נכנסו ליוטיוב?
Yeah, they're there. We have over 30 viewers already on YouTube, and more are coming on now. We'll just wait a few minutes. Another minute or two will wait. People are logging on now. We've got 30 viewers, and the numbers are going up. Good morning, everyone. This will be available on YouTube after we're done, and it will be posted later on Facebook too. We'll have to work on that. We'll see how that goes. But welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We'll just start in another minute or so. We're just waiting for people to log on. Yeah, our numbers are climbing, which is good. It's not YouTube. We got lots of regards here from people. Thank you for commenting, everyone. Thank you for sharing in the comments. Great comments coming through. Beautiful. Thank you. Keep on sharing. We love. Thank you very much for all your comments. We're gonna go live. We are live. We are live. Yeah, we are live. Exit full screen. Okay, great. Welcome to one and all for joining us for a special edition of our daily learning program, which we have been doing every day since lockdown at 10:30 a.m. We're slightly off schedule this morning due to some challenges with linking Zoom to Facebook. But thank you for being here this morning. Thank you to my father-in-law, Rabbi Vigler, for joining. An honor and privilege to have you with us. It's a special day today, Yom Yerushalayim, 53rd anniversary since the liberation of Yerushalayim and the unification of Yerushalayim back to full borders of Jerusalem. We're going to learn more about that day and this special day, and to hear what was it like in 1967, as Rabbi Vigler was a boy in Yerushalayim during that time. And it's a good opportunity to hear firsthand from those experiences. But before we get on to our special guest, I want to share with you a video which will hopefully give us some context of that special day, and maybe Rabbi Vigler can elaborate on this video once we get going. Just give me a moment and we'll share the video with everyone. 1 second. Just bear with us for a moment while we load the video. Right. Okay, share. Okay. But just mute yourself. Okay, I'll mute you. It's fine. I've muted you. It's okay. And now we're going to go to here.
אנחנו יושבים על הרכב שצופה אל העיר העתיקה, ועוד מעט אנחנו עומדים להיכנס אליה. העיר העתיקה של ירושלים, שמאז כל הדורות חותמים עליה ושואפים אליה. אנחנו נהיה הראשונים להיכנס אליה. הטנקים של איתן מתקדמים משמאל וייכנסו לשער האריות. לנוע אל השער. מכתב הסיום יהיה על הרחבה למעלה. עד כאן עבור. הר הבית בידינו, כאן תלמיד, הר הבית בידינו. לראות בעשרים כמעט, כל הכבוד, כל הכבוד. חדר, כל הכוחות חדר. אני יורד ברגע זה אני יורד במדרגות אל הכותל. אינני אדם דתי, מעולם לא הייתי, אבל זהו הכותל, ואני נוגע באבני הכותל המערבי. ברוך אתה אדוני מנחם ציון ובונה ירושלים. שנה כזאת בירושלים הבנויה.
That was quite something. That's quite something, that video. Very moving. Okay, we have a beautiful crowd here today. Thank you all for joining us. And Stanley Braz comments that the Sidlam tour was in Yerushalayim this time of the year, for the 50th anniversary. Yes, it's true. So Rabbi Vigler, it's good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. My shver, my father-in-law, Abba, as we call you. The video we just saw now, for us, we're trying to, for me, I'm trying to envision where this is and where the tanks were and where the soldiers are coming in from. For you, this is your backyard. You grew up with this. This is your upbringing, but it wasn't always that way because you didn't always have access to the old city and to the gates of Yerushalayim, those original gates of Yerushalayim. So please, will you share with us what Yerushalayim was like when you were growing up and what you experienced in 1967 in Yom Yerushalayim?
Firstly, Yom Yerushalayim Sameach, a happy Rosh Chodesh and Shabbat Shalom. All wonderful things are happening right now, Erev Shabbos, that we are standing now. And to remember 53 years ago, well, it's something. I want to start first with words that I heard from my late parents-in-law. They used to say that to them, Yom Yerushalayim, the independence of Israel, means so much. Coming from Auschwitz, Holocaust survivors, where they had nowhere to go, nobody wanted to have the Jew. And now, Baruch Hashem, we have not only Eretz Israel, we have Yerushalayim, and so on. They said to them, it means the world, and they were so happy. And interestingly enough, today, on Yom Yerushalayim, is my father-in-law's Yortzeit. He passed away in 1999 in our home, and many people in Johannesburg remember him, where he stayed by us the last 5 years of his life. So it means a lot to us. Yom Yerushalayim is a special day. And with this, just to remind you what Yerushalayim was before 1967. Yerushalayim was basically a little dope. Remember, Yerushalayim was isolated. To drive from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim by bus took you close to 2 hours. The road that we have today was not in existence, because today we pass by a place which we call it Latrun. Latrun was part of Jordan. The legionnaires used to stay there, and we couldn't pass by, so we had to go all around. The buses used to go via Bet Shemesh, in a place called until today Tzomet Hartuv. And from there to go up to Yerushalayim. It took a long time and so on, and the road was so narrow and so forth. But there were no too many people going to Yerushalayim. Only much after the 67 war, Baruch Hashem, that Yerushalayim had an open road to Tel Aviv to make it so short. Today by train, you can go in 30 minutes, you are in center of Tel Aviv. So it's something which we could only dream in those days. But Yerushalayim generally was a very small place. There was only one robot on the corner of Jaffa Street and King George, the only robot that was in Yerushalayim. The shops, everything was completely different. Of course, no shopping centers as we know today, nothing of this nature. And a small little Yerushalayim where everybody knew everybody. I personally am an 8th generation Yerushalmi, actually coming originally from Hebron, where my Bobbe managed to come to Yerushalayim just before Nebar the 1929 massacre, and so our family survived. But we are in Eretz Israel for all these years. So to us, Yerushalayim meant so much. I want to tell you, before the 1967 war, just the days preceding Milchemet Sheshet Hayamim, we were in such a fear. We did not know if tomorrow we will be alive. In the same video that you showed now, coming into Sha'ar HaArayot, it's got a continuation where it shows how the soldiers came into Yerushalayim. They were so scared and afraid of everything. We knew Yerushalayim, Poshet, because we grew up. My parents' home, from the balcony, I could see Arat Sofim, Scope, the Mount Scope, and Yerushalayim had a street called, if you know about it, some of you, Rehov Shmuel Hanavi. Still today, Shmuel Hanavi, by the way, Prophet Samuel, who's today's his Yortzeit as well. Shmuel Hanavi was the last street of Yerushalayim that you could go there. Can I tell you a story about it? What happened there?
Yeah, we want to hear. But Shmuel Hanavi is the street that connects Geula Mea Sharim to the old city, right?
Shmuel Hanavi connects Ramot and Rehov Bar Ilan to the old city today. People pass by there in a place which we used to call it Shar Mandelbaum. It was the gate of Mandelbaum. That's the end of Yerushalayim. You couldn't go there. You couldn't go any further. Today, people pass by. They don't even notice the house right next door, or the little holes in the buildings, which our soldiers used to hide behind it in order to shoot at the Arabs. Only when somebody knows Yerushalayim can stop you there and show you really what to see. But Shmuel Hanavi was the last street. To cross from Shmuel Hanavi was a field, nothing. In the middle of this field were two barbed wires roundabout. We used to call it the Shetach Efker, about 2 or 3 meters between the barbed wires, and it was a no man's land. Nobody could go through there. There was a place where a lot of rocks were there. Today you won't even see it. It's all shekunim, buildings. People live there. They don't even know what happened there 55 years ago. But as children, we didn't have something to do. I must reminding my sins as a child that Chata'ai ani mazkir. We used to go there on a Shabbos afternoon or at any other time, holidays, and the Arab children used to be on the other side of the road. And many times we used to speak to them, sit down and talk, discuss. But sometimes, children, it turned to a little bit of a fight. And we used to exchange stones against one another. We used to hide behind the rocks, and there an open field. And sometimes the legionnaires, the soldiers who were there, the Jordanian ones, used to come out and scream at us. We used to run away. I must share with you an incident that happened there. It left of me in those days an indelible impression. We had a friend called David Grossman. One day, he didn't come to school. So we didn't know what. Child didn't come, he's bunking, whatever. About lunchtime, some police people arrived to the class, and they come into our class. They said, has any one of you seen David Grossman yesterday, today? We said, we saw him yesterday, nothing. What happened? It transpired that he didn't feel like going to school today. So what did he do? He went down to Shmuel Hanavi, to the border, the no man's land. And as he was standing there, the Arabs were playing soccer. And they were short of one person in one group. So they looked at him and they said to him, Ta'al hon David, Ta'al hon David. Come, David, come, join us. And he said, don't worry, the soldiers will not do anything to you. Come, it's okay, we are fixed up with them. And they opened up for him the wires and he went through and they had a nice game. But the soldiers, the Jordanians who saw it, they hacked him. The next day or 2 days later, he was returned from Aqaba, that's in Eilat. They returned him to Israel through there. So it was a lesson for us all. It's nice to know the Arabs, to speak to them, but you don't join their soccer games. After the war, we used to go down sometimes to meet the Arabs on the other side, and we We recognized the other. I mean, it was nice. I used to have a car mechanic by the name of Abu Razi. Abu Razi at the shop there, right in Wadi Joz, used to come to him whenever he saw me. Oh, he used to call me, come in. It's always to sit with him. Would offer me a nice coffee and so on, and discussing, talking, laughing about those days when all these events used to happen. Yerushalayim was such a small place that even with the Arabs, we had already quite a good connection, you can call it.
Do you remember when the war broke out and soldiers must have been flooding the city?
The war, when the war broke out, I must tell you, I just I think 2 weeks before, more or less, I was recruited into the army. So I was a new soldier, which are just training now and so on. And we were very scared. I remember that they took us to the north. We were in a place right on the borders coming to Jenin, between Afula and Jenin, next to the Gilboa mountain. And at night, they used to ask us to go out and to lay down,
Traps
for the tanks and for whatever. We put it on the border everywhere. It was in a map, and so
traps.
Mines. You used to put the mines right there. Used to go out on a tractor, on a platform of a tractor. So we used to go there, and because it was in the middle of the field, and there we did already, what do you call it? We put all these mines around. People were so scared because Nasser said at the time, we are going to drive the Jews into the sea. And people were so scared. I cannot forget it. On Shabbos before the war, it was Shabbos Parashat Bechukotai, like last Shabbos. And we were there in the time, and we knew that the war was imminent. There was no question. The question was, what will be with us? The government prepared its Stadion Ramat Gan Stadium, as a gravesite, as a massive gravesite. They said for 40,000 people. Can you imagine? 40,000 people, a gravesite in Ramat Gan. People were scared. We didn't know what will be with us. And on that Shabbos, it was actually Motzei Shabbos, that we heard that the Rebbe in New York was talking about Shabbos, and the Rebbe said on Shabbos that next Shabbat, he said, Jews will daven at the Kotel. And we said, what? Next Shabbat to daven at the Kotel? I want to be next Shabbos alive. Who speaks about davening at the Kotel? The Rebbe said, yes, he'll daven at the Kotel, but he said one thing. He came out then with the Mivtza Tefillin. What we know today, we see people put on Tefillin in the streets and so on. It started on that Shabbos. When the Rebbe said that put on the Tefillin on every soldier, every Jew. And he quoted the Pasuk from the parasha, which says, V'rou kol amei haaretz, all the nations of the earth will see that the name of Hashem is written upon you, and they will fear you. So it was a big thing that we will come, we will win the war, but we have to put on tefillin. So I thought, yes, let's put on tefillin with our people too. We were there together, must have been close to 1,000 people, soldiers, sitting there. And we announced in Chadar Ochel that whoever wants to put on tefillin, we are doing it now outside the Chadar Ochel. I thought we'll come a few. To our amazement, we couldn't believe it. There was a long queue of soldiers, and we had to take all the frum guys amongst us to come quickly with the tefillin and everyone to put on with the soldiers. Say Shema Israel. I remember my officer who was a kibbutznik, far away from Yiddishkeit, used to speak to us. I don't believe in anything. He stood also there in the queue. I said to him, Uzi, you said you don't believe. He said, no, he said. I'm still a Jew, he said, and if it doesn't help, it cannot do any harm, he said to me. But he used to come every day, even during the war, whenever we could. Put on that feeling. I want to put it. It was a miracle thing. So when we stayed on Monday, I clearly remember Monday morning at just before 8 o'clock, the war started. And the radio came on 8 o'clock, and he said that Egyptian forces are fighting Tzahal in Sinai. For a few hours, they wouldn't divulge a thing. It was like a mist around all the news. They didn't want the Arabs to know what's happening. They knew already that the Egyptian Air Force is destroyed, and our tanks were rushing into Sinai in 4 days to take over the whole of Sinai, which is 3 times as bigger than all of Israel. They didn't tell us anything. We on the news, we didn't know, but being in the army, we had also our own communication with the head office. And from there, already by about after 9 o'clock, we heard what's going on. But the news on the radio, nobody knew anything. Inside the army, we knew. On that day, Monday, about lunchtime, we started to get shells from Jordan. They were shelling our soldiers here in this area. And we were told not to retaliate, just we had dug before some nice tunnels for every soldier to be hiding, and we sat inside. Fires were starting. It was beginning of summer. It's a very agricultural land in this area, the Emek Israel, and it started to be on fire. Everything we didn't know what. About 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, we saw 2 Syrian MiGs were flying 5 meters above us. Above us, they were going to a little airport, which was right there in Machane Amos. They were trying to bomb it. And while they were bombing above us, we took with our guns, we tried to shoot these airplanes. It was a joke. They just were flying. But we did see, a few hours later, an Iraqi Topolov, a huge airplane, was flying over us also towards Tel Aviv. And we saw our Mirage. Mirage was the airplane that Israel used in those days. And we saw him shooting at this Iraqi airplane, and immediately we saw him exploding. The pilot did not even parachute. It was the end of it. So it was right above us. On that night, Monday night, we were given instructions to get into near Jenin. So before it started, I must tell you, it was a huge valley. It's called Emek Israel, flat land, the mountain on one side, but very flat. And to come there, you come from the road of Hadera to Afula. They used to have a lot of cars, trucks coming up, going down a hill. They used to come in full lights and then drive back with no lights at all and come back Nochamol again, in order that Jordanians should think, who knows how many soldiers that the Jews are bringing against them. But there was nothing. Our tanks were Sherman tanks from the Second World War. The Arabs, the Jordanians, they had the Centaurians, which was British tanks, very modern in those days. And we had the Shermans. So in the middle of the night, we were told, we were to allow our tanks to get over to Jenin, but we put some mines before. So we stood on the road, and with little torches, we used to give signs to the tanks where they should go without being hurt by the mines. So left, right, whatever it is, and a whole battalion of them all went in. It was our duty the following day to get into Jenin and to enforce the curfew. After Jenin was also a terrible battle started in Emek Dotan, just outside, on the south of Jenin. And a few hours later, we were there and we came into Shechem. So our unit was in charge. We were just first fresh recruits. We didn't even know properly how to use even the guns. We knew already Baruch Hashem, but we were very, very, very fresh. And we were holding the curfew in these cities of Jenin and Shechem. Today they give us such chores, but in those days, the fear, exactly as the Rebbe said, you put on tefillin and they will fear you. So that was something unbelievable after the war.
I'm trying to imagine during this time, your parents are living in Yerushalayim, in Beis Yisrael, which is inside Geula, literally in close proximity to the old city, right? And there's no communication. I mean, there's no today. If you have a child in the army, or there's something going on, or your parents are in a place of war, you'd want to contact them and communicate with them. You didn't have any communication with your parents, or little. What was the?
Of course, there was no communication. My cell phone didn't work properly at the time, so we didn't have any connection. But of course, we were worried. I must tell you that my parents lived just behind Yeshivat Mir. Yeshivat Mir was a building of 4 floors, and the army used the top of it in order to control Sheikh Jarrah and Har HaTzofim to shoot, and the Arabs shot a lot at Yeshivat Mir. When I came back home, right in the yard, and entering our home, were so many shells were falling there. All the sharpness were just right in front of our door. We had a little wall, like a balcony on the ground floor. It was just
The shrapnel,
put down completely. It was shuttered down already, and inside the house was full of sharpness. My father left some of them in the cupboards, wherever it is. He said, "I'm not fixing it up. I want to keep it as a reminder of the nisim, of the great miracles that took place in those days." My parents and my little brother, they were hiding under this. We had another floor of a neighbor who lived right underneath them. It was basically underground, and all the neighbors from above, everybody came down to live there. Wow. And my father, the first day, he wanted to get his tefillin, which he left it inside the house. He came in, and he didn't come back. So my mother came up to him. "What are you doing? Come down." He came down. He said, a minute after he came down, the shells began to fall into the yard. Listen, that we had from all over.
Unbelievable.
So it was really a big thing.
So during the war, you were actually in service. You were in Jenin, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then later on, you came back home. I would imagine after the war, you came home for a visit or whatever it is, and suddenly the whole Yerushalayim had changed.
I must tell you a few things about it. Firstly, when we came back, it was unbelievable to see Yerushalayim like that, to come in the old road and so on, and to see the people were. Yes, when I came out of the army, I came to Afula. In Afula, I had to catch now a tramp to hitchhike for until Yerushalayim. And I stood there in the center of Afula. A guy by the name of Rabbi Yitzchak Yadger, who is still alive. He is a teacher in Tanakh. He was standing there and he saw me and a few other guys. He said, come, come, come. He helped us all and he put all our guns in the center of this circle and he put them all together next to one another and he said, let's dance together around it. And he said, you said, this is what Isaiah said in chapter 2. And they shall turn their swords into, what do you call it?
The plowshares. The
plowshares and so on. It was, the simcha was unbelievable. I think we had about 670 dead, which is a lot. One person to die is a lot. But what happened to all this? Tens of thousands. They were preparing massive graves for everyone. Ois. Baruch Hashem, it was a miracle war without any question in 6 days to do. I must tell you that this one, I went into Yerushalayim, I went into this center of Yerushalayim by the corner of King George and Rehov Yafa. I told you there was one robot in Yerushalayim. The Arabs began to come now to see Yerushalayim. They heard about Yerushalayim, they wanted to see. And they were standing by the robot, which they've never seen in their lives before. And they see an interesting thing. The man is red, and he stands as always, close with his hands, and everybody stands. And then this man turns into green, and he shows that he's walking. So people start to walk. When we used to change the lights, used to clap hands. I've never seen in their life such a thing, you know. A robot that can change and tells you when to go, when to stand. They even went to Amashbir Merkazi in King George. They opened up the shop right then, and they had those steps that you stand on the step and you go up. They used to run like little children, the adults, to come again and again to see it. It was something very unusual for them to see.
So how did it work? They were living in the old city and they weren't allowed to come into your area of Yerushalayim. And after
they were allowed to come about 2 weeks after the war. When we came to Yerushalayim, I was given then a time to go. They allowed us to go before Shavuot. We were pushed soldiers, fresh soldiers. They said, we cannot continue on your training for a while. So they sent us home. So I came into Yerushalayim. It was for Shavuot. Erev Shavuos. So we came in and we went to the Kotel. They were scared to go through the old city as we go today. So we had to go from Har Zion all around and get in from, which you know what is Sha'ar HaShpot. That was the entrance. They had like a dirt road, but so when we used to come in Yerushalayim later on to walk, the Arabs used to say, tell me, there were 2 million Jews in those days in Eretz Yisrael. They said, are you 2 million? The Arabs used to tell us, I've seen myself 5 million already walking here up and down. How come you're only 2 million? But it was for them something. I even remember that when I came into Yerushalayim on that Shavuot, the whole suburb, as you saw in the movie before that, the Kotel was a narrow road of about 2 meters that you could stand there and down. But behind it, where we have today all this open place, was what we call Shchunat HaMugrabim, the Mugrab suburbs. That's what they came from the Maghreb, from North Africa, and they lived there. All of them were vacated from their homes, and it was all their homes were just put to ground in order to open up this beautiful site, because people realized this will be a place of all Jews coming.
Wow.
And I remember that we used to walk there, the shoes, it was so much of dust, so their shoes were so schmutzig and so on, but who took care about it? It was Yom Tov to come, Chag HaShavuot, to come to be by the Kotel the first time. It was something I vividly remember it as if it happened yesterday.
It's unbelievable. Just to mention that it's hard to imagine then for people to visit Yerushalayim was to be able to go to the Kotel, as you said on Shavuot, was a highlight that was an unbelievable privilege which you weren't able to do before then. Apparently now I hear I've spent a Shavuot by the Kotel. I walked from my home as a bar mitzvah boy 13, 14, 15, I walked from my home in Haranoff all the way to the old city, about a 2-hour walk for Shavuot morning. But now, because of the restrictions of the coronavirus and social distancing, they've now made restrictions that they're only allowing 700 people into the Kotel for Shavuot night, and it's going to work by a raffle, a goral, where they're going to have an online registration where you register for the goral, for the raffle, and they're going to choose 700 people out of that raffle.
The year 5780 that we are currently going through, remember, it's going to be remembered in history of the Jews. That will be a special year, of course. We have never had before in the history of mankind, we never had such a thing, a close down of the entire world. And Baruch Hashem, that Hashem is running the world. We leave it to him. He knows what he's doing. We know that something excellent, not good, but excellent will come out of all this closure.
I was actually watching the news reporter who's now the Shlicha of Mizrahi, Sivan Rahav Meir. She was saying that 700 people are going to be chosen to go to the Kotel. Do you know what a responsibility that is? If you're chosen as one of the 700 to represent Klal Yisrael, normally there are hundreds of people there, hundreds of thousands of people that are there. If you're one of the 700 people that are chosen to be at the Kotel for this Shavuot, 53 years since you walked in, 67, you were there Shavuot 54 years ago, 53 years ago. So now, 53 years later, only 700 people are going to be able to go to Shavuot. She actually was saying in a report, she was saying that she's not even sure if she's ready to put her name down, because to be chosen as one of 700 people is a very big yichus, a very big schut. You got to really carry that weight. You know, you got to be a special type of person to be responsible for that. But you know, it's unbelievable the times to see the comparison of how precious Yerushalayim was to us then and how precious it is to us today, that we would love to all be there, and only 700 at the moment. Please God, plans will change. There'll be Geula Dika plans, redemption plans for Klal Yisrael to be there. Halavai. But one other thing I just want to take away, and then we can wrap up, is that to think that Israel was preparing a graveyard for 40,000 people. We can relate to this because the world has gone, has frozen. Everyone's imagining the worst. Everyone's preparing. New York prepared graveyards and other places. So Africa still doesn't know what's going to be. And what we see from this story of Yom Yerushalayim is that with emunah and bitachon, with trust in Hashem, miracles can happen. You saw it happen in front of your own eyes in Yerushalayim as a young boy. And so we got to hope and pray that we too should be able to see miracles. Not please God for Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael, and please God for Klal Yisrael around the world, and please God for the entire world during this time.
The only prophet in those days who gave us encouragement was the Rebbe, who told us, next Shabbos, Jews will daven by the Kotel. It was the only one who said such words. Nobody else said these words. And we hope that, please God, now we will have Mashiach himself being with us, and he will, of course, reopen Yerushalayim. He'll build the Beis HaMikdash. We will have Ashiva Shofteinu K'vod Rishono. It will be Yerushalayim Irecha Berachamim Tashuv.
Beautiful. Thank you very, very much for joining us. I see we've got visitors here from international. There's Rabbi Vigler, who sends regards on YouTube from Petach Tikva in Israel, and others who have joined us. Welcome to our community members here in Johannesburg. Please God, this link will be available after the session concludes, and others will be able to watch it afterwards. Rabbi Vigler, Yasher Koach, thank you very, very much. And please God, we should see, please God, good things with Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, and the whole world.
Yasher Koach and Yom Yerushalayim Sameach, and Yom Yerushalayim will lead us now into Yom Beis HaMikdash.
Amen, amen, amen. Kol tov. Thank you very, very much.